This, I swear, when you as you go through life, there are just moments where people who you may not have known on a personal level, but their work impacted you in a way that in some ways they feel more like family than some of your own, blood relatives, so to speak. But I was blown away when I was scrolling earlier today. I was actually working on some videos for my other channel, and sometimes I like to have the background noise of another YouTuber. Like if I'm watching someone doing a episode review for a show I watch, or sometimes more specific to this particular topic at hand, whenever a new comic book like from DC or something comes out and it's a storyline I've been following, it's like, okay, let me see what Comics Explained has to say over on Rob's channel. And I saw Rob post a video, said, I lost my friend, or I just lost my best friend. And I saw the thumbnail, and it was him and Benny from Comicstorian. I'm like, I lost my best friend. I hope not. I hope like these two, the dynamic 1-2 punch of the comic book YouTube community, didn't have a fallout or anything. But I clicked on the video, and like 10 seconds in, I was just jaw on the floor. Ben Potter, aka Benny, that's how we all know him, Benny from Comicstorian, passed away on June 8th, according to his wife, due to an unfortunate accident. And she made a post on Twitter, I believe, yesterday, but I didn't know. It wasn't until I clicked on Rob's video that I found out, and I was just floored. I mean, I can think in recent times, the last few deaths that have impacted me on such a level was, Akira Toriyama. And of course, I never met the guy, but of course, I've been a Dragon Ball fan since 5th or 6th grade. So, that kind of took me out like, wow. Then, of course, Kevin Conroy, the iconic voice of Batman. And then, of course, a little bit earlier than that, if I remember correctly, it's been over a year now, but since Jason David Frank, aka Tommy Oliver, come on now, green, white, black, red, Power Rangers, Lord Draken. It's just that there are certain people in your life that when they go, you just feel it in your heart, because it's like, dang, they meant so much to you, or their work impacted you so much. And for Comicstorian as a whole, I think, it speaks volumes that millions of people online are reacting to this news, because he and his team were such pillars in the comic book fandom. I remember back when I was working at the call center, what was it, from 2014 to 2017, I recall, the call center I worked at for Liberty University was in the mall of River Ridge Mall. It was like it was adjacent to the mall. And during my lunch break, I would, go through the mall sometimes, if, especially if it was after payday, because the comic book store was on the other side of the mall. So it was a bit of a walk. I mean, hey, good workout after sitting in a cubicle, for the first 4 hours of my shift. But, I would go and I would spend, I remember having like what was it called? Like a pull box. I know it's hard for me to remember because comic book stores just started fading out, even pre-pandemic. So it was sad when that local comic book store in the mall, as well as the one that was in the strip mall on the other side of town, that shut down too. But I remember specifically getting the Injustice comic series, some of the new 52 runs like Batman, Teen Titans, and a few others. And of course, when Rebirth came out. But I want to talk specifically about when I came across Comics Explained and Comicstorian. So I remember getting these comic books, and this was before I knew about how, oh dang, like my phone tracks what I do, and then it gives me all these recommendations for things. I remember going to YouTube one day during my lunch break because I had just bought one of the recent Injustice comic books, and then I saw a video about, hey, this guy does reviews of Injustice. Okay, and then, oh yeah, Quarter Owls and Okay, death of the family. So I became a Comicstorian fan, because of the videos. Benny's just like booming voice, his great voice acting for the characters, and I noticed some. This might sound controversial, but I feel like there's a generation of comic book fans out there, or even younger, readers and whatnot. Kevin Conroy, to the people who grew up watching Batman the animated series, I feel like to some, Benny may have been like the iconic voice of Batman in the comic books. I know that some people be like, hey, now, come on now, you're pushing it. But I do feel like in some ways that's correct because, as time went on, comic books started, not doing as well in stores, and most comic book stores were, closing down. Comicstorian was a great way to keep up with the issues that were no longer available to some people, in close proximity to them. Like some people would either have to get the digital copies or, see if they can get physical copies through Amazon or whenever graphic novels were printed of those issues. But Comicstorian definitely definitely paved the way for other comic books channels to follow. And from there, all the different conventions and whatnot they went to. Of course, I remember Comics Experiment when it first came out, when it was Benny and Rob, and I think Dan was on there too. It was great to see, them just having conversations because it felt like, it felt like crossovers, between Power Ranger teams, or in the MCU crossovers, like when Captain America would pop up in another hero's movie or something like that. So it just felt cool to see because these two, like Rob said, and he said, I'm not saying this to be arrogant or whatever, but we were kind of like the 1-2 punch of the comic book community on YouTube, and that is without a shadow of a doubt facts. And as time went on, the channel kind of evolved, where I think Benny's brother became part of it. I think his wife even did some voiceover work from time to time. I think one of my favorite eras, if you will, of Comicstorian was during the dark, what was it? Death Metal, when all the Dark Knights, like the evil Batman from the negative multiverse, started popping up. And I remember looking forward to Benny and Rob's, their respective channels, both covering the subjects. And I mean, I remember Mangastorian. I remember like Dragon Ball Super and some of the Pokemon Adventure stuff that he would cover on there as well. It's just that this is definitely a blow because I think it was a couple nights ago, because I just moved into my new house a couple weeks ago. So I've been busy with that. I haven't been focusing on YouTube that much. I'm like, dang, I really need to catch up on the latest Comic Experience podcast episodes because I haven't had time to sit. It's kind of like a ritual, like a weekend schedule. Like, okay, I'm going to set some time aside this Saturday. I'll clean up, but I have the podcast on the back, playing in the background or something. But to get this news of him gone, it's just, it really does hurt. It really does. Because I think Benny even mentioned a few months ago about how YouTube really isn't doing what it used to for him in terms of the numbers, especially with channels like Heavy Spoilers, New Rock Stars, Screen Crush, and just these other comic book related channels. But they're more focused on the entertainment side. Like they cover the movies, the television series and whatnot. They do a bunch of Easter egg videos. So they kind of took over the comic landscape once the MCU popped off and more people were running to the films rather than, the comic books. So it did kind of slow things down for them because they had to, shuffle things around and figure out new ways to make the channel thrive. So it really does hurt because as someone who's been, I can't really say a day one. I don't know exactly when Comicstorian started, but I do know that I was there when the new 52 was starting. So maybe it was around that time. But yeah, this really does hurt. It really does. So, just seeing the outpouring of support and, so many people coming forward to talk about their stories with Benny or, how the videos got him through a tough time, this, that, and the third. It really does show that he left a legacy behind him, and just well wishes and prayers to his family, friends, and everybody who he knew, because this really hurts. It really does. But let me know some of your favorite, moments of the Comicstorian YouTube channel and Benny as a whole. I mean, the dude just had, you could tell he just walked in a room and he was the life of the party. Just dude had energy to spare. Like, even if you're an introvert, I feel like he's the kind of person that could, turn you into someone that would have a good conversation with him, as opposed to being a wallflower. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll leave a link to Rob's video in the comment section below, because if you're a Comicstorian fan, a Comics Explained fan, just listen to what he has to say. It's very emotional, but I just love moments where it's like, you hear never before, heard stories from behind the scenes, if you will, between him and Benny and their friendship. So that's all I have. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.